Well, good afternoon and welcome to Innovision's third and final Meet the Finalists virtual reception. We have a fun and engaging hour planned as we introduce the finalists in two categories, the technology application category and the sustainability category. Before we get started, I have a few things that I wanted to talk about. One is that at the completion of each of the finalists giving an overview of their particular technology, we'll open things up for questions. And so if you'd like, we'll be monitoring the chat board. And so if you have a question, just enter it in there. We'll do our best to make sure that we can get that out there. And also to let you know is we're recording the reception today, and we'll post it on our website tomorrow. And we're going to promote it through the weekly newsletter that will come out this weekend, through Facebook and LinkedIn. And please feel free to share it with anyone you think might be interested. So I'd like to turn it over to Amy Robich, a member of our founding team of Innovision and current board chair. She will share a few words and introduce Cole Dudley, our discussion moderator.
Thanks, Michael. Finalists, welcome to the Innovision community and congratulations. Innovision's primary goal is to highlight, promote, and foster innovation. Providing and making connections with peers and ecosystem support organizations is just one avenue we use to do so. I hope you'll be connecting with fellow innovators during and after this event. We're able to showcase South Carolina innovations and innovators today with South Carolina Research Authority's support. That includes sponsorship of this Meet the Finalists webcast series and a collaborative and supportive working relationship. Thank you, SCRA. Thanks also to Dart Points, sponsor of the Technology Application Award, Sunoco, sponsor of the Sustainability Award, and Velux America for support of this particular webcast. We're honored to have Cole Dudley back again this year to facilitate the finalist introductions and discussion. Cole's the Director of Industry Solutions at SCRA. Cole, tell us about Industry Solutions focus and your role before you kick off the finalist introductions.
Thank you, Amy. It's a real honor to support Innovision. I'm a big fan of your organization for many years now. Industry Solutions works with industry partners in the state of South Carolina to determine technology needs, and then we match them up with brilliant entrepreneurs like those we have on this program or our academic institutions in South Carolina to help solve those problems. Today, I'd like to start by having each of our finalists introduce themselves and their team. We'll go around the room and do that for all of our finalists here. Then after that, we will start with the Technology Application Awards, and they will give a 5-minute overview of their technology. And at the end, as Michael said, he will use any questions that have been submitted. We will keep on a tight schedule, so we appreciate your participation, but we apologize if we can't get to all of the questions. So let's begin with our introductions. Again, in the Technology Award finalist, we have Cycrypt. Floyd, would you please introduce yourself and your team?
My name is Floyd Harper. I'm president and founder of Cycrypt. The team's out working. We're trying to launch product right now, so it's kind of a busy time.
Oh, thank you, Floyd. Joseph?
Hello, so I'm Josephine. I'm a project engineer with Techtronic Industries. Joining me from TTI is Tony Sorrells, an engineering manager, and Sam Duenas, another project engineer.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our Sustainability Award finalists. Sudeep, would you begin, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sudeep Popat. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Environmental Engineering and Earth Sciences at Clemson University. My research lab focuses on developing technologies for recovering resources from wastewater. And the technology that we'll share a little later today is based on the work that my PhD student Phil Arvey and I conducted on developing an electrochemical process and technology for urine stabilization and recovering nitrogen from that.
Thank you, Sudeep. Jeff, V-Base, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Jeff DeMayo. I'm the president and CEO of the V-Base Oil Company. Our team, we've been doing this for about 7 years in the making. I don't see them on. Zach Hunt and Ben Bergman were both inventors of the technology 5 years ago. Michelle DeMeo and Scott Hunter are on the call. They're our Director of Communications and VP of Business Development, respectively. And then, shout out to someone that couldn't be here. One big member of our team was Barish Kakus. He actually passed on last year. I think his wife Liz was going to be here, but he was a really smart guy and a commercialization force to be reckoned with. And he'd be excited to see us here today.
Thank you, Jeff. And finally, Rich, could you tell us about your team, please?
Basically, my team is myself as the inventor, bringing this from years of trial and error and trying to figure this out. So coming into South Carolina and being happy to be here today.
Great. Thank you, Rich. So we'll start out first with our Technology Application Award finalists describing their technologies and companies. The Innovation Technology Application Award recognizes a company or organization for its inventive application of an existing technology. The focus is on how an existing technology is applied to create new value, and it may be applied to a product, process, or service that is intended for sale to customers or for use inside of their parent organization. As a reminder, the 3 finalists in this category are Cycrypt, TTI Outdoor Power Equipment, and Xylotherapeutic. All right, let's start with Cycrypt. Please tell us about your innovation, Floyd.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Innovision team, Amy, who's been very helpful, and the sponsors. It is an honor to be nominated. Cybersecurity is of vital importance. Companies you trust are hacked all too often. Cyber attacks have cost us all trillions of dollars. We pay these costs in higher prices for each item we buy. But what if there is a solution to protect you, your loved ones, and your way of life? Was it always this way? No. From 3500 BC, the bottom-up approach created hundreds of algorithms and encryptions that were secure for tens to hundreds of years. However, only 6 were never unbroken. For over 25 years, I worked with the creators and the experts in these unbroken technologies. We created solutions to all known cyber attacks. You can eliminate over 98% of the cost, risks, liabilities from any cyber attack by simply protecting data, where even if stolen, the stolen data can never be used for harm or profit by the hackers or the thieves for over 20 years after the attack. Once data is protected, you have time to focus on other gaps in technology, in order of priority. Thankfully, the world is finally changing. The bottom-up approach was discarded to create the sharing internet. We all know how well that has worked out over the past 30 years. A new version of bottom-up is zero trust. Trust nothing, always verify. In addition, the NIST cybersecurity framework has 5 categories: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. The major shift is that the experts are now recommending, first, the companies only have one vendor for all the protections, one vendor that has protections that cover all 5 categories. Cycrypt currently is only one of 4 companies worldwide that offer protections in all 5 categories. The second recommendation is to eliminate as many cyber tools as you can. These tools create as many gaps as they close. So how can you protect your loved ones? You, your family, your clients, your company are all under attack every day. However, why is no one trying to stop the hackers until after a successful attack? This is the current top-down approach. However, bottom-up demands a slightly different approach. In response, Cycrypt has added 2 additional protections: deflect and hacker deterrence. Cycrypt protects, deflects, cyber attacks to one of our hackers' honeypots. The data we collect on the hacker and the attack are added to Cycrypt's unique company-wide blacklist. The hacker and the cyber attack are detected immediately if they try to attack another device protected by Cycrypt. We love to say, one attack and you're done. Cycrypt is also making this data available to the FBI and the 26 other countries they currently work with. Zero trust demands you be skeptical. Yes, we are the sixth unbroken technology. I created the first $1 million challenge from 1987 to 2002. Our fifth challenge is ongoing with over 9.5 million attacks to date, over 7 million from China alone since May. Please attack us or watch attacks live on our dashboard. By simply using our software, you are helping us identify, deflect, and stop. We hope our goal, 99.99% of all hackers and all cyber attacks. Your risk of a cyber attack is actually reduced each and every day. If a unique cyber attack does get through, we help you eliminate over 98% of your potential costs, risks, and liabilities. However, Cycrypt, as you expect, has many other layers of protections to prevent new and unique attacks from becoming a reportable incident and causing you any harm. The hacker and the cyber attack cannot attack any other device protected by Cycrypt. Cycrypt is the best protection for you, your loved ones, and your way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd. We appreciate your efforts in keeping us all safer. Next up, we'll hear from TTI Outdoor Power Equipment, Joseph.
All right, there we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Again, so I'm Josephine, project engineer at Techtronic Industries. A little bit about Techtronic Industries is we are a world-class leader in power tools, outdoor power equipment, floor care, and appliance. And we transform these industries through our superior environmentally friendly cordless technology. And specifically today, I will be covering our Ryobi joystick controlled lawnmowers. So when was the last time that you looked at your lawn and thought about the impact it has globally? Data gathered by the EPA suggests that gas-powered lawnmowers actually make up for around 5% of the total air pollution in the United States. Clearly, an alternative is necessary to the out-of-date gas lawnmowers to bring about a better future. And so this brings us to the all-electric joystick-controlled Ryobi lawnmower. The traditional zero-turn lawnmowers feature a lap bar design, and that's shown on the left there where you push forward and backward on the two handlebars, giving you your movement. And so our design implements a joystick into the electric design. And so this controls all of the movement with a single left bar. And this offers several advantages. First and foremost being you can control the entire movement of the mower with one hand. So that leaves a hand open for a beverage or for pushing branches out of the way as you drive by or anything. In addition to that, the joystick offers easy and intuitive control for newcomers. Pretty much pointing the joystick in the direction that you want to go works. Pointing it forward moves the mower forward. Pushing it to the right will turn the mower to the right. Tilting it left and so forth will do each respective movement. In addition, it offers 3 speed settings. So you have low, medium, and high. This offers smooth control in tight spaces. And it also allows you to have high speed in open areas where it's no longer necessary to be in a low speed mode. In addition, the joystick handle slides up and down for a lock neutral position. And so this resets the position of your mower and lets you know that you're in neutral, in addition, not allowing the stick to move around. And it allows you to not be able to move the unit and keep it in a locked position. And finally, it's a robust design. This has to be, we use it for a single unit. We go up to actually 300 hours of testing and to make sure that we're making a reliable and sturdy product. So here we're going to see the joystick in action. Here I'm pulling up the handle to pull it out of that lock position. Let me pause it real quick. These are 2 hydraulic dampers that we add to the joystick. And their function is to add a little resistance. And what this resistance does is it makes it a smooth feel for the joystick, in addition to providing some resistance. If you're on a bumpy surface, you're not necessarily jerking all over the place. And so front to back motion pulls and compresses those two dampers in unison. Side to side will actually rotate it, so one compresses and the other pulls. And then when you go around in circular motion here, it does a mixture of both, cleverly implementing just two to control all four areas of movement. Then in addition to that, here you will see that lock position. I'm pushing the handle down here into this neutral plate chamfer, putting it in a locked neutral position so I can no longer move, and it's stuck in place until I pull up. The actual joystick itself, there's two sensors here, and they're reading the movement of a rotation of the shaft being created as you push that joystick forward and backwards. And our complex electrical system is actually interpreting that data and using it for your movement of the wheels and giving you your different speed positions in addition to where you're going, the direction that you're taking it. Here is me just showing off the control of the smooth control as I go around some trees. But you might be asking yourself, how does this have an impact on us? And so it's important to keep integrating with electric vehicles such as lawnmowers, as these climate-friendly lawnmowers help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions caused by conventional gas-powered lawnmowers. This joystick does just that. It offers an easy-to-learn system for newcomers and also a superb alternative to more experienced members compared to the lap bars. In addition, the joystick has introduced financial success. Not only is this a cheaper option, the joystick, compared to lap bars, it is also using a lot less parts, so there's a lot less material waste. So the Ryobi joystick has brought life into a once stale and stagnated lap bar lawnmower industry, offering a comfortable and easy to learn system in an intimidating industry. The joystick has revolutionized lawn care into an enjoyable experience. What was once a tedious chore has now become a leisurely yet gratifying drive through your yard. So I'd briefly like to thank the team here at TTI for their hard work on such an amazing product. It was certainly a great experience for me to get to be part of such an excellent team. I'd also like to thank the Innovision board for putting these events together and connecting innovation experts in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm sure we'd all love to test drive one of those.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, I will say.
It looks like a lot of fun. So the final applicant we have in this category and finalist is Xylo Therapeutics. Scott Pankos, CEO. Would you please tell us about Xylo?
Sure. And first, I'd like to thank the Innovision team and SCRA. SCRA and Xylo have had a very strong kind of partnership going way back over 4 years ago. So appreciate all y'all's efforts. So Xylo makes a drug delivery system. Our drug delivery system solves bioavailability problems. In other words, we make ineffective drugs effective, and we make effective drugs even more effective. So going back a little bit, we licensed an innovative topical drug delivery system from Albert Einstein College of Medicine in 2017. The system, based on silica-derived microparticles that we call Z-pods, held the promise of enhancing the bioavailability of many, many topically applied active ingredients, or AIs. This would be for animals, plants, and humans. The system, however, was early stage. As such, Xylo worked diligently for several years in our Greenville-based lab and manufacturing facility to develop the technology to make it commercializable. So over the last 18 months, we have found success applying the technology to a long list of AIs in vertical markets, including cosmetics, animal health, ag tech, and pharma. So let's give a few examples. The first is deep tissue wounds. So deep tissue wounds are suffered on the battlefield, and these need immediate attention to mitigate infection risks and to facilitate the healing. Nitric oxide is nature's best and perfect healing agent. It is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial, it's vasodilatory, which means it increases blood flow, and it's anti-inflammatory. All of these are important wound healing factors. But nitric oxide is a gas with a half-life of seconds, so sustained bioavailability of it in an affordable fashion has not been achievable. Until now. Xylo's sustained-release nitric oxide product concept is stable, portable, and affordable, providing the potential to save lives and limbs of soldiers that suffer wounds in the battlefield. Example number 2. Xylo recently engaged the large ag tech company based out of Israel to develop an herbicide encapsulated Z-Pod product concept. The vision was that encapsulation of the herbicide into our Z-Pods would make the herbicide more efficacious by helping target delivery of the herbicide to the weed root structure and thereby become more environmentally friendly. In other words, less herbicide would be required and there'd be less potential for runoff. Xylo collaborated with the ag tech partner to design prototypes that would accomplish these goals, and the herbicide-loaded prototypes are now being tested by our partner. Third example, cutaneous lupus. Cutaneous lupus is an autoimmune skin condition that results in scarring, alopecia or hair loss, and hyperpigmentation of the skin, and it impacts over 500,000 patients in the US alone. Lupus afflicts mostly women, and mostly women of color, bearing age. Those with lupus suffer greatly, mostly because the lesions that are associated with lupus typically appear on the neck, the face, and the head, and because treatment options are extremely limited, with only a single mediocre drug currently approved. Xylo sponsored 2 studies that use mice that are genetically modified to develop lupus lesions. Both studies showed dramatic, statistically significant reductions in lesion size and severity when treated with AEA-loaded Z-Pods. AEA is an endocannabinoid that our bodies make. So statistically significant with AEA-loaded Z-Pods as compared to AEA treatment without the Z-Pods and as compared to no treatment. A preliminary study was then conducted using human tissue of lupus patients, and it also showed great promise. The consumer and societal impact of mitigating cutaneous lupus's effect on the emotional and physical well-being of these patients with unmet needs would be immense. And so that is the Xylo story. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Very impressive. I think it's interesting to note that Scott and I just met Rich, and there may be others, are entrepreneurs that moved to South Carolina. So it's great that we have such an attractive ecosystem and these people are coming in and we have such a diverse set of technologies here. When we get to the sustainability awards, you'll probably hear some related technologies, I'll say. So very encouraging for us.
Yep.
The sustainability award category is defined as recognizing an organization with an innovative approach to environmental stewardship. The focus of the award is on the technology, processes, and/or business models that promote protection of the Earth's natural resources, including renewable energy, renewable materials, reduced energy consumption, or reduced waste. And I'm glad that we also have a representative from our great academic community here in South Carolina. The first of our finalists is the Clemson University Environmental Engineering and Earth Sciences Department. So Sudeep, please take it away.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. And it is my pleasure to talk about our technology for electrochemical stabilization of urine for a sustainable application, that is to recycle nitrogen. Shown here in our photograph here is an actual prototype of the technology that we have developed. And so what I'll do is I'll go through a couple of slides of discussing on why should urine be separated from wastewater before bringing forth what the problem in doing that is and how our technology helps solve it. And so if you consider domestic wastewater, so this is wastewater that is released from human activities in a household and a work setting, majority of the volume is actually not human originated wastewater, right? So if you consider urine, it's a very small volume of domestic wastewater. But the amount of nitrogen, and this is nitrogen that we release as urea, is substantially larger than the volume that the urine contributes. So we're talking here about 70 to 80% of all nitrogen that is in domestic wastewater comes from human urine. And what we do right now is that we have centralized treatment plants where we treat that nitrogen. So we focus on removing that nitrogen so that it doesn't get back out in the environment and cause eutrophication. But there is an opportunity here which I think has been missed, and it's been missed because we focus so much on making sure that we reach effluent concentrations that are not harmful to aquatic life when we release the nitrogen, that perhaps there is a complete change in how we do wastewater treatment that could be accomplished. And one of that is that maybe we could separate urine from all of our wastewater, not put that nitrogen in the wastewater, and in fact recover that nitrogen. Turns out that there's about 12 grams of nitrogen that each one of us discharges every day in urine. So if you count the population of the world, that's about 75 million tons of nitrogen. And so what does this nitrogen get used for, right? So we use nitrogen in our food. So we use nitrogen to grow food, we consume that food, and then we discharge all this nitrogen back out into the environment. So it turns out if we create a circular loop around nitrogen, we may have significant energy savings, we may have significant environmental benefits that could occur, because then we would be offsetting the nitrogen that is produced by the Haber-Bosch process, which is the traditional method in which we produce our fertilizer. So the idea here is, can we create a circular loop around nitrogen, a circular loop around fertilizers where we don't discard any nitrogen? And so the idea is that, well, we could separate urine and treat it separately from all domestic wastewater. The idea would be that we would have some sort of way in which we would collect urine separately from all other human waste. And we know we can do that. There are source separating toilets that are available. The idea would be then, could we figure out a way either at a building scale, at a community scale, or maybe a larger scale to transport all of that urine and treat it so that we actually can just use the urine directly as our fertilizer if we conserve the nitrogen in there, or maybe treat it further and recover that nitrogen. The biggest challenge there is storage. So if you collect it and you want to treat it, the part in between, which is storage, is where we are lacking technologies. And that's where we focused our efforts on developing a technology. So the reason why storage is difficult is because of a natural process that occurs in urine. So every time that urine is collected, all of you must have noticed the smell, right? So that smell actually comes from a natural process that is catalyzed by an enzyme that most bacteria will produce and release in urine. And that is when urea, so this molecule here that is shown here on the left, urea, gets converted to ammonia. And you end up producing also CO2 along with it. So you end up releasing acid from the urine and increasing the pH, which makes the smell of ammonia even worse, right? So ammonia stays dissolved in urine, but if the pH goes up, you have this ammonia that gets volatilized, and that is the smell of urine. So part of the storage issue is also related to collection. How do you avoid the smell? How do you avoid the volatilization of the nitrogen? Because if the point is to recover nitrogen, we don't want to have that nitrogen go away. So it turns out we know how to stop it, right? This is a biological process. So we can stop it by adding chemicals. So we can add acids or bases, which will inactivate the bacteria or the enzymes that do this process in urine. But the issue is, we don't want our restrooms to have big drums of acids and bases stored in the back end of those restrooms. And so when we started thinking about this problem, and we started thinking about how we could develop technologies that assist in making source separation of urine, nitrogen recovery from urine a reality, we wanted to focus on how can we replace this use of large quantities of acids and bases. And that is where our technology comes in. In my group, we work on a lot of electrochemical technology. So when I say electrochemical, this is similar to a fuel cell. So all of you must have heard of hydrogen fuel cells that we hope at some day would drive most of our cars, if not all of our cars. The idea is that you do electrode reactions. In a hydrogen fuel cell, you give hydrogen on one electrode, oxygen on the other electrode. So you're basically making water from hydrogen and oxygen, but recovering the energy that's in between. So the same concept, we use electrode reactions to produce chemicals in the urine on an as-need basis at a concentration that is just required, so that we don't have to store large quantities of chemicals. The chemical that we got really interested in is hydrogen peroxide. And the reason for that is that we can electrochemically produce it from oxygen. So this is our technology. We have an electrochemical cell, which has 2 electrodes. We feed source separated urine, we collect it and we feed it through one of the chambers in this technology, which has an electrode that can produce hydrogen peroxide in situ. So we are producing hydrogen peroxide as needed in situ in the urine, right? So every time a volume comes in, the system turns on, there is an electrical current that is passed. So this is electrifying our processing of the urine, and we produce the right amount of peroxide in the urine to stabilize it, because the peroxide will inactivate all bacteria and will inactivate the urease enzyme if present. And so by this means, we end up with urine that is stable. And we've done that. So we've shown the proof of concept of this. So this is an example of the kind of performance that we can get out of this system, where if we take just source separated urine and store it, we'll see that ammonia over time significantly goes up, again, related to the smell that we get from urine. If we pass the urine through our system for only a few minutes, there is absolutely no ammonia that we can detect in it for up to 30 days. In fact, we've kept our samples from a year back, which is when we first started developing this technology. Those are still not smelling at all. There is no ammonia that is produced. So we can actually stabilize urine for a duration of an entire year. And the idea is that this can then be followed up by maybe membrane technologies or other technologies, which will actually either help recover the urea or help recover the water, so that we can completely recycle all of urine, right? So we want to recycle the nitrogen, we want to recycle the water, and we are expanding this technology now to incorporate also phosphorus removal and recovery from urine as well, because apart from nitrogen, phosphorus is another important nutrient that we know that we are running out of, and we need to solve that issue soon as well. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Sudeep. So just curious, are you working with the ag community on this?
So, so we haven't done any work with the ag community. So this all originated from a project in my group that was funded by NASA. So one of the applications for this could be recycling nitrogen in space, right? So if we want to end up making civilization in Mars, we will have to figure out a way of getting nitrogen, or at least recycling it as much as possible. So that's where the interest from NASA on this came from.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Performance Enhanced Delivery and Rich Johnson. Rich, we have just a little bit of time. Could you inform us why you chose South Carolina? Rich, you're on mute.
Yeah, I chose South Carolina for 2 purposes. One was I have 2 little boys, so I decided to bring them here and raise them in a good Southern culture. It was a good area for family. And the second was because of the technology that I had seen coming into the area, and then evaluating it based off of, I guess, noticing trends of things that are going to be growing out of this area. On top of that, with agriculture, we're within 1,000 square miles of 70% of the population.
Great. Well, that didn't subtract from your 5 minutes, but I appreciate it. We've gotten a lot of interest in people moving to this area.
There's a lot of good reasons to move here.
Rich, you're on mute again.
There we go. Technology, it's a good area for technology, but there's a lot more to it than for the business structure, the supply chain. I can give you a lot of information about that stuff just because of where we're located.
Thank you. Tell us about your technology, please.
So Performance Enhanced Delivery has brought to market a patent pending coating that I've developed. Worked quite a few years on this in regards to doing it for fertilizer or hard to coat materials. In order to explain it very simply, we are able to coat a food source for plants and allow it to degrade or delay release over the course of time. Today in the market, there's currently a lot of plastics and non-recyclable or slowly recyclable coatings that are on fertilizers that stay in the ground for a long time. I've been able to figure out how to coat those materials, but also coat hard to coat materials. So hydrophilic materials and hydrophobic materials. The hydrophobics are secondary to this, but the hydrophilic materials, something such as ammonium nitrate, calcium nitrate, we're able to coat those in a way that's bio-based and regenerates the soil once it's all done. So we're able to basically create a circular economy, acquire the ingredients, process those ingredients, coat a fertilizer, whether it's synthetic or an organic fertilizer, return it back to the field so that it then biodegrades and then feeds the soil biology, which in return unlocks a lot of the nutrients within the soil and allows the plant, the next round of plant or the plant, to uptake material. On top of that, we're able to coat, we're in the process of coating seeds so that we can delay germination on those, which would allow for kind of delayed germination in the field. That correlates to save time on the tractor. If we remember what I said about family, it allows us to have more time from the field to be able to go to the baseball games and do those kinds of things with our children and have more family time. So the economics of it is that it allows us to save time, save fuel, save labor, allow us to do all of those things simply by bringing something out of Mother Nature and putting it back into Mother Nature. That's pretty much the gamut for what we have in regards to a bio-based coating for fertilizer.
Well, I really like the idea that you're replacing the plastics. It sounds like we have some technologists on this presentation that might want to talk to each other. Very similar applications or developments. And our final finalist in this category, Jeff, please tell us more about V-Base and the oil you developed.
All right, I think I'm doing it. Am I doing it?
We'd see it.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you today. It's good to be here. And again, like everyone said, we appreciate Innovision pulling this together and SCRA and all the sponsors. Again, for this event, but also all the other stuff you guys do throughout the year. It's great. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about the V-Base Oil Company. You know, this all started really 7 years ago, roughly. We were working in the lab, and my buddy Zach was looking at some work we're doing, and he kept shaking his head going, I don't understand why we don't make this into a lubricant. And he had experience in lubricants more than me. And I said, well, you know, let's do it. And so we went out and got some funding with the Department of Energy and the USDA, and you know, 7 years later, here we are. So it's good to be working with a great team of chemists and material scientists. You know, one of the big challenges, and I'll talk about the next slide, is that there's a big push for bio-based materials. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times there's either a real or a perceived trade-off between performance and, you know, bio content or whether it biodegrades. And so that was our goal from the outset, is to make something that's high performance and actually doesn't compromise, you know, with the environment, but also with how it works in a piece of equipment. So the problem that we are solving is kind of twofold. There's clearly an environmental issue associated with base oils. You'll see numbers as high as 50% of lubricants end up in the environment one way or the other. I think that definitely would be included when you consider the amount that's incinerated. And only about 1% of oils are really bio-based. The other problem is that regulation and a combination of corporate commitments, people that are worried about in developing their ESG goals are saying they want to switch to more environmental solutions, but lots of the existing base oils that produce lubricants aren't actually high performance when they're environmentally based. So if you look at this picture, and this is actually what made me make these slides, lubricants are composed of, you know, 75 to actually upwards of 90% base oil. And then there's other additives that are placed in there to cover viscosity, making them work at cold temperatures, things like that. So the base oil is what V-Base is really focused on producing. And where we outperform petroleum is petroleum's non-renewable, often it's toxic and has variable performance. Synthetic esters are really what the top of the line base oils and lubricants are produced from. But we saw it in the slides about the stabilizing urine. Hydrolysis is a problem. That's when water mixes with the oil and causes it to break down. And then vegetable oils are very green, very renewable, but they do have low performance, especially at cold temperatures or at high operating temperatures. So if it's cold outside, you need your hydraulic fluid to still be a liquid. And if you're in a high temperature application, you don't want it to varnish. So those were kind of all the issues that we were addressing. So we won't, I refrain maybe for the first time ever of not putting a drawing of a molecule in this presentation. But we actually developed a new molecule, and it's what we call a secondary ester. Well, one of the critical things it does is it actually prevents hydrolysis. So it stabilizes the oil, which does a couple of things. One, it makes it last longer. So that's good for the environment from the perspective of it doesn't break down and have to be replaced. It also helps it work at colder temperatures, and it opens up the window where bio-based materials can actually be used. So one of the big challenges of switching to bio-based solutions and biodegradable solutions is they still have to perform well. And as you look at sustainability, one of the biggest contributions actually you'll find is in efficiency. So while we want this lubricant to be good if it's not in a piece of equipment, the biggest thing it can do is actually be a high efficiency lubricant that actually saves energy while the piece of equipment is running. So we built these materials on a sustainable platform. You would find these base oils inside of a fully formulated hydraulic fluid. Every one of our oils is food grade. They're also all what you would consider luskless, which means in Europe you can use these in bio-based applications, transmission fluids. But we can increase systems efficiency, we have better stability, and we actually have better compatibility. There's a big challenge when you switch from a petroleum oil to a bio oil. You have to replace gaskets, hoses, and things like that, and we avoid that. So, real quick, these are the things these are kind of check boxes. We are bio-based, biodegradable, non-toxic, non-bioaccumulating, food grade. One of the things we're pushing towards is actually going towards sustainable circular solutions. This is not today. This will be kind of years out. This is kind of your traditional, you get your raw materials, you produce them, distribute them, blend them, sell them, and they're either spilled or turned into waste eventually. That's kind of your traditional. We're going to these circular solutions, and these are just, maintenance, reprocessing, reusing them. But what we've added and are doing research on is actually designing these in a way that we can split the materials back into their starting components, clean them up, and then reassemble them. And we're doing research on that. We don't talk about it a lot. And then the final thing that I'll mention is while we're making the base oils, we were originally funded to develop a fully formulated turbine oil, and specifically a turbine for hydropower. So in a large hydropower facility, there is a concern because these turbines are actually in water that you'll spill it in the water. And the Department of Energy wanted to develop a solution that were it to come under regulation, they would have something that was actually approved in hydropower. And so we're actually running in December, we're planning maybe first quarter of next year, running in a power facility up in Sweden for our first field trials. But again, the idea here is if it does go into the water, it biodegrades. So we don't, our goal is we don't ever want oil to go into the water or into the environment. But if it does, we want to make sure that it's an environmentally safe material that will break down. And our oils break down within 70% of it breaks down within 10 days in testing, and over 90% within 28 days. So that is us. Again, we thank everyone for staying till the end. But thank you to Innovision for having us, and we look forward to the next meeting.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I work with another company that recycles the material, and I know the end customers are highly interested in this entire circular economy, making sure that we don't just produce more waste on the back end. We have just a little bit of time here, so I'm going to take the privilege of moderator. Floyd, I was really interested in your comment when you were presenting that you are one of 6 unbreakable technologies. Could you tell us a little more about, how it's unbreakable? And just, I don't want you to give away your secret sauce, but I'd love to know, if I could understand it, how it is unbreakable.
Basically, there are 5 other unbroken technologies. They all have 5 basic characteristics that allow them to be unhackable, unbreakable. And by working with them and them assisting us as we created these solutions that were built into the tax program, was the first company that we created. For my father's firm, we were able to implement all of those technologies. And we did millions of tax returns, billions of transactions, over $5 billion in e-commerce, and never a hint of any hack, data loss, data theft, even though we were running the $1 million challenge. We were actually putting out data files and IRS tests return data, and no one could go from the data file to the return or back. And that was only at step 3. We have 11 layers of data protection. We have 11 layers in almost every technology we have. So we're considered unbreakable.
And your product is for commercial entities or also for personal use?
At this point, we're talking to more corporations and agencies, Homeland, DOD, DOE, military, but the application will go from a Z series mainframe all the way down to a Raspberry Pi.
Interesting. Thank you. Just a note for our listeners too, I believe that the mower that was shown for TTI is actually at Home Depot now. Is that right, Joseph?
That is correct. You can go out and buy them right now. Yes.
Very good.
Well, we limited you to 5 minutes apiece, so let me open up the floor since we have a few minutes. Is there anyone that presented that would like to say something else that they didn't have time for?
Yeah, I would like to thank SCRA. I apologize for not thanking SCRA when I started. It's tough to be first sometimes and be nervous. So SCRA has been very helpful as we relaunch this technology.
Not a problem at all. It's our pleasure to be able to work with all of you.
And this is Scott here from Xylo. Let me say how impressed I am with all the other technologies. So
Absolutely.
it's some really, really impressive stuff, guys.
It is. This is what makes my job easy and inspirational. So any of you that haven't worked with SCRA, please contact me and we'll start a discussion and see how we can help you. It's not only money. We mentor, we make connections, and we work with great people like those at Innovision. So, this is a community we have in South Carolina. We've also heard that from companies that come in, that they appreciate the attention they get. They're coming from a larger state. They may not be able to get access to the resources as easily. So it's a community that we're growing together, and we're here to help. So please reach out. But it's been great. Really enjoyed hearing about everyone's technologies. Like I said, we're always interested in learning more about your stories and your journeys and where you came from and where you're going. So thank you for being part of this today. And I think Mike has a few comments he'd like to make at the end.
Sure. Actually, before we kind of close things up, since you did such a great job, Cole, keeping people together, that we have that liberty. But I see Sandeep smiling over there. One question I had about that system that you showed, if you're just collecting urine, I'm kind of questioning, normally there's a lot of water we flush I hope I'm not getting too nitty gritty here. So how does that work? Because I assume that's not what you want, right? You want pure urine and
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the ideal application is for no flush or low flush toilets, but considering that if you have high flush, it's where you would have a lower concentration of urea to begin with compared to a no flush. So I don't think anything changes in the system except for the sizing of it, right? So if it's a full flush system, then it would have to be a larger electrochemical cell because that's just more volume that we need to handle. The amount of peroxide can be amazingly tuned, right? I mean, that's the advantage of electrification, is that the electricity you provide gets converted to the peroxide. So it can be very precise in how you tune the system to produce just as much as needed. So it is just the sizing of it, right? So if you consider a flush system, then you would have to size it for just more volume that is going to come in.
So at the risk of getting myself into further trouble, so is your target mostly commercial high volume usage, or is this something that we might actually see in our homes?
Yeah, so I think it would be good if it's everywhere, but I understand that the technology would need time to develop and show maturity enough to be able to handle different scenarios. The ideal is commercial buildings, right? So I think about this as like in our university, we could have, in our building where we work, we could have all the restrooms be converted to source separating, and we could do that, and we could, have a garden outside where we plant food, right? So I think at a commercial building level, I think it should be easily doable. I think the scale of this technology and other technologies that would have to go around it, because again, this is not going to solve everything. This is going to be an important piece of a process train, but most processes I think develop to the level where at a commercial building it should make sense.
At coliseums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone who's been to a restroom and a male restroom, at halftime after each guy has had 3 beers, there's a lot of urine.
Yeah.
And Scott, I would expect it to be high concentration as well. Very fermented.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat, and the question is the performance enhanced delivery coating biodegradable?
It is. It's 100% biodegradable.
And Sudeep, another question.
Sure.
Is there a country that is more likely to quickly embrace the technology?
Yeah, so I think I see this happening in Europe first. They are already leaps ahead. In fact, so I was actually contacted by a group in Europe where they have all the other technology except for the stabilization that they have tested at building scale. There's a company that's making a construction company that's building a building where they want to incorporate source separation and recovery of nitrogen. The only part of the puzzle that they're missing is to stabilize without acids and bases. So I know there is interest, and I know that in Europe it will happen definitely sooner than I think it will happen here.
There's some good jokes there. European.
All right. Before this goes too far in another direction, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And I hope you see what we at Innovision see. I mean, these innovations are interesting, but it's the people behind them, as you're seeing through these discussions, are even more interesting. They go out after seeing a problem, some sort of a need, they set out and do something about it. Whether it's a medical device, it's educational, workforce, sustainability, a community initiative, these creative people are helping other people do something they couldn't do before. So how about a big Zoom applause for all these finalists? Congratulations to all of you. Phenomenal, just phenomenal. And for those of you who want to learn more about these finalists and those in the other award categories, join us for the Innovision Awards celebration, which is sponsored by Contact Inc. on November 15th. Put that on your calendar, when we'll again showcase all the finalists and announce the winners. Boy, that's a tough tough job the judges have on that part of it. And you can register for free. The virtual event is through our website, innovationawards.org, or you can go to the Innovision Eventbrite page. So I hope to see you then when we'll honor the finalists and the winners, as well as Young Innovator Award category. And we also have the Dr. Charles Towns Individual Achievement Award. So thank you all and look forward to seeing you in November.
Yep. And thanks, Cole.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.